Hello everyone, it's Six, and you're probably here from my recent collabs with Swag Kage and Seth the Programmer. If you are, welcome. Today I'm going to be going over or talking about Team 7 from Boruto versus Team 7 from Naruto, and more specifically, who would win in a team battle between the two. So before we get started, I'd like to establish the two teams and which time period the characters are coming from. So on Boruto's Team 7, we're going to have Boruto, Mitsuki, Sarada, and Konohamaru, all at their current strengths in the manga at the time of recording this, which is chapter 58. And on Naruto's Team 7, we're going to have Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi, all from part 1, but it's going to be a bit of a mix. I'm going to allow Curse Mark 2 Sasuke and QB Cloak One Tail Naruto to be on the team at the same time, even though in the manga, when these two forms appear, Naruto and Sasuke are enemies, obviously. I'd also like to mention that for the Boruto section of things, it's going to be a manga only canon because there are some big differences between the manga and anime that I can't account for because I don't watch the anime and I'm much less familiar with it, and overall I'm just much more familiar with the manga. So if you think that there is anything that changes the scaling or changes the outcome of the battle that's presented in the anime, that's fine. Just know that for this video it's not being taken into consideration. So to kick things off with Naruto's Team 7 scaling, we're going to be scaling Naruto and Sasuke both in their strongest form, since that's what they're going to be entering the battle with. Now in Data Book 2, it says that Naruto, when getting his QB chakra against Sasuke, not even the One Tail Cloak, was at his utmost strength in order to protect his bond with Sasuke. This is something very consistent in Naruto, sort of like a mental amp of sorts, where Hiruzen describes it as when you're protecting something very precious to you, you can bring out your true strength, or that is the true strength of a shinobi. And what Haku describes it as is whenever you're protecting someone close to you, you can just be as strong as you need to be. We see this against Gaara, where Naruto gets a mental amp from wanting to protect Sasuke and Sakura, and Sasuke says that Naruto is summoning what he believes to be an unbelievable amount of chakra. And then we see this again whenever Naruto claims to be out of chakra, then he looks at Sakura and then he's able to summon Gamma Bunta. So this is a very consistent thing in Naruto for whenever you're in these dire situations or whenever you're trying to protect something close to you, that you can just get much stronger. So Naruto unleashes his ultimate strength, so we have a much weaker form of Naruto than his One Tail form, scaling above every other feat Naruto has performed in part 1 up to this point. He's stronger than himself on the Haku Bridge that Zabuza implies is stronger than himself and Kakashi. He's stronger than himself when he was able to clash with and eventually defeat Neji, the genius mastermind mega brain of the Hyuga clan. He's stronger than the 1000 shadow clones he made against Gaara during the Konoha Crush that kick around the partially transformed One Tail Gaara that can clash with and counter Chidori Sasuke. And most importantly, he can kick around this form of Sasuke that he's fighting in the Final Valley. Now, a common counter to this is exactly what I just said, that on the bridge, he's stronger than Kakashi and Amp from Sasuke's death. So he's at his strongest on the bridge. But we know that this isn't consistent with what's listed in the data book, and when looking through and interpreting the manga and the information provided to me, I'm trying to find the most consistent way to apply the information to the story, and saying that Naruto on the bridge is at his strongest would obviously contradict what's presented to me in the information presented in the data book and in the manga. So it's very important that Naruto is kicking around this form of Sasuke, because it means that Naruto would actually scale above the Kimimaro he fought just before the fight. So when Kabuto is talking to Kimimaro, he tells him that he does not know who is stronger between him and Sasuke, which should obviously mean that they are of some comparable power level, because Kabuto doesn't know which one is over the other. They had to be around some sort of similar level. Kimimaro is actually able to beat up or tangle with a drunk Lee, and we know the more alcohol Lee drinks, the more powerful he becomes, as is stated by Might Guy in the anime, and is even implied to be stronger than Might Guy if he manages to get an entire bottle of alcohol, like what happened in the Kimimaro fight. This would actually put Naruto in this form above Might Guy, who is said to be on par with Kakashi multiple times. It's their entire narrative that those two are relative to one another. And Guy is also said in the data books to be able to make a fatigued Itachi Uchiha after using the Tsukuyomi on Kakashi through just combat ability alone. Naruto from this point goes on to gain the One Tail Cloak, which you can argue is as much as a 10 times amp and maybe even higher, scaling off his fight with Curse Mark II Sasuke in their respective clash at the end. Sasuke, being stated to have one of the better curse marks out of what Orochimaru can give, should have a better amp than Jirobo, who claims his second stage is a 10 times boost over the first stage. Naruto and Sasuke being this much stronger than Kakashi should definitely make them the strongest members of Team 7 in this fight. Now, I know you can argue Kakashi scales over the Two Tails and Shippuden. However, it's important to note that Kakashi has had 2.5 to 3 years of training, and going on missions, Kakashi has shown in his spare time to think up different training methods like the Rasen Shuriken for Naruto. We know Kakashi's not sitting around and being lazy, you know, whenever he has his free time, unless he's reading a book or something like that. We see Kakashi attempt to get stronger, and we do see that between part 1 and part 2, Kakashi's limit for Raikiri goes from 4 at max to above 6, as we see him use more than 6 in the Kakuzu fight. So none of the Shippuden feats for Kakashi have to contradict any of the scaling that I presented here. Kakashi being someone who can block Itachi's Water Fang bullet at close range, which is said in the data book to be the speed of light. So if we say Naruto and Sasuke at their strongest scale over this by at least 10 times, maybe even more, it puts them easily into the FTL plus range of speed. So they should definitely be also the fastest on their team in part 1. Kakashi's also got some pretty decent feats and statements himself in the data book. 1, Kakashi is stated to be Konoha's strongest ninja, which should put him above the likes of Hiruzen and Orochimaru respectively. The common counter to this argument is that the Hokage is supposed to be the strongest in the village based on the Iruka statement. However, that can be interpreted a different way, saying that the Hokage is the strongest at the time he is given the title, but not all the time, and he can be surpassed by other shinobi in the village. This statement can also mean that Kakashi is his absolute strongest, so that would mean, you know, obviously with his Raikiri out, which we know is a massive speed amp, so fast that if you don't have your Sharingan active, you can't respond to counterattacks launched at you while using it. Well, not effectively, at least. Kakashi scaling this high is actually fairly consistent, considering he's able to rival Might Guy, who can make Itachi retreat while weakened, and how he himself can combat Itachi, block his jutsu, and see through most of Itachi's moves before they can do any sort of lethal damage to him. Most would say, oh my god, Itachi's holding back on Kakashi. Well, yes, I agree, you can interpret this statement from Kakashi that way. However, it can also be contextualized by Itachi's statement as just referring to the fact that Itachi hasn't brung out the MS yet, which Itachi says is his clan's true strength. So Itachi is shown to be superior to Orochimaru even in his 3-Tomo state, seeing as that's what Orochimaru thinks of whenever he says that Itachi is stronger than him. Orochimaru, who is equal to Hiruzen, makes it all consistent for Kakashi to be at this level of power. And as for Sakura, she has no scaling. She sucks. I mean, like, what did you expect, honestly, for me to bring for Sakura? She has nothing. Now, moving on to the Boruto Team 7 side of things in the manga, we're going to kick it off with some, with some actually pretty funny Sage Mitsuki scaling. So, Mitsuki's Sage power is one that Boruto era Orochimaru describes surpasses even his own. And we even see that this is true because Mitsuki gets his Sage power and he's able to just speed blitz Boruto era Orochimaru. Boruto era Orochimaru is actually pretty powerful. So while on a mission to find Shin, Naruto and Sasuke take a trip to Orochimaru's hideout. While inside the hideout, Naruto is in Sage mode and he tells Sasuke to keep his guard up because they're not in a safe place. Even after meeting with Suigetsu and Jugo, Naruto does not turn off his Sage mode until he lays eyes on Orochimaru. So Naruto thinks that Orochimaru can possibly injure him in just his base form, but possibly Sage mode as well. While this definitely isn't definitive, the implication is certainly there. So base Naruto, while arguably fatigued from chakra extraction and lack of sleep, was matching fused Momoshiki in hand-to-hand combat in the Boruto manga. Momoshiki, a being who can beat up the perfect Jinchuriki 8 Tails Killer Bee, Killer B, when much weaker in the war arc, can overpower his brother A in their Lariat clash, who can keep up with and knock around KCM1 Naruto, who should be massively over his Part 1 self in terms of speed and power, seeing as KCM1 is equal to 6 or 5 tails of Kurama's chakra, and V1 cloak is obviously only 1 tail of Kurama's chakra. And that's even just highballing the V1 cloak. It should be even less than what is 1 tail of full Kurama's chakra. But yeah, KCM1 Naruto massively over Part 1 Naruto. Sage Mode Mitsuki by himself should be able to speed blitz every single member of Team 7 Naruto, and he's still got teammates. So to introduce the next member of the team, we have Boruto himself. Boruto in this base is able to react in combat of Fuse Momoshiki, stabbing out his Rinnegan and evading him with Shadow Clones. This Momoshiki should be stronger than 8 Tails Killer B, seeing as the 8 Tails was only able to provide Momoshiki with 3 chakra pills, and he ate 5 before his encounter with Boruto. On top of eating a Kenshiki chakra fruit, which chakra fruits are stated by Amato, the right hand man of Jigen / Ishiki Otsutsuki, to genetically update the Otsutsuki. We've already gone over where the 8 tails would scale in the Mitsuki section, so just apply the scaling here, and it gets Boruto massively over anyone in Naruto's Team 7, and this is a much weaker form of Boruto. This is Boruto at the beginning of the manga. He's gotten much stronger since then, as stated by Naruto when they do their training. Karma is stated by Kawaki in the Boruto manga to be a significant amp to Boruto's base form, so much so that he's able to one-shot a base Naruto Shadow Clone with the Thunderbolt Jutsu. Whereas beforehand, Naruto was just kicking him around and easily puts the battle even heavier into Boruto's favor, on top of already being able to beat up all of Team 7 in just his base form. Getting into Boruto's hacks ability, in his Karma state, Boruto is able to absorb any and all ninjutsu that Team 7 would be able to throw at him, as well as being able to wield the Vanishing Rasengan and attack so stealthy not even adult Sasuke and Momoshiki with their Rinnegan, a dojutsu that surpasses everyone on Team 7's, is able to see. Boruto's Karma 1 form is also able to use space-time ninjutsu to completely enclose and teleport Ishiki before he's able to shrink and get out the way. Ishiki is a being who can speed blitz adult Naruto and Sasuke, who I think we can all agree would murder themselves from Part 1, would mean Boruto with this ability could BFR anyone of Team 7 or all of them at once, and none of them would have any counter to it at all. Now, before you get on my case in the comments saying, oh my god, 6, Boruto is not faster than adult Naruto and Sasuke. Yes, I know, that's cool. I'm not saying Boruto is that fast, but this particular ability that Boruto possesses is that fast. It does scale to those speeds. Now, moving on to Sasuke's daughter, a prodigy in her own way, Sarada is able to combat Boruto in the training arc before she even has her 3-tomo Sharingan that she now possesses in the manga. So naturally, all of the scaling feats Boruto has should also apply to Sarada, and she should be even faster later due to training and unlocking the 3-tomo Sharingan. Sarada is also able to perform the Chidori without doing any hand signs, despite saying she hasn't mastered the jutsu yet. Hand signs being a way to control and manipulate your chakra into a specific jutsu. This is a feat that Kakashi is unable to replicate until the Pain arc. So that's pretty good, like, chakra control scaling for Sarada to put her over who should have the best chakra control on Team 7 at the time of the characters I'm putting in the video. Even though Naruto and Sasuke I said are stronger, Kakashi should still have a better overall grip on chakra. Konohamaru, I will say, is sort of lacking in feats in the manga. It's really hard to gauge his power. However, we do know he's just vaguely above base Boruto in the hour arc, which should also apply the same 8-tail scaling we talked about earlier that I'm going over, but he's below Karma 1 Boruto due to Karma 1 Boruto being able to match Kawaki, who performs feats Konohamaru is unable to replicate on the same opponents, that being the robots. When they run into the robots that Kawaki dismantled, Sarada says the other people were unable to put a dent in the robots, so Kawaki should naturally scale over everyone in Team 7 at that point. However, Kawaki is not here. I just wanted to mention that. So the win cons for Boruto's team are as followed. Mitsuki speed blitzes everyone and one-shots them. Boruto speed blitzes everyone and one-shots them. Sarada speed blitzes everyone and one-shots them. Boruto drains them out of chakra completely. Boruto sends them to another dimension. Or Konohamaru speed blitzes everyone and one-shots them. All in all, I think I've made it pretty clear that Boruto and his team would completely wash and destroy Naruto's Team 7. But I want to know what you guys think in the comments. Keep in mind while commenting, I had to try to scale Naruto's team as high as possible to make the battle a bit more fair and interesting. I think it's pretty obvious to anyone who would like really read and analyze the series that Boruto's Team 7 would be much above Naruto's, but I have seen this discussion on some Discord servers and some YouTube comment sections, and not everyone has the time to power scale and do things like I do, so I figured I'd do it for them and just show why Naruto Team 7 just stands absolutely no chance against Boruto's. This is also outside of mentioning crazy things like Borishiki and things like that, which would absolutely murder stomp Team 7 just like the other members of Boruto's team would. But yeah, anyway, don't forget to comment, subscribe, like, have a nice day.